All right, so welcome to our nice little living room here. I'm so thrilled that you both accepted to do this. We've had conversations. Dino, you were at our galas in the past in Toronto. Najah, you just moved from the US, from New York, and I think you had been in Montreal for maybe 2 weeks when you joined us at the Montreal Gala. And I convinced you to do this, I think with not too much difficulty, so thank you so much.
Not at all.
Well, here are some of the things that I'd like us to share with the audience here tonight. Among the business leaders who've implemented a diversity and inclusion strategy, 85% declare that their financial results have improved, 70% affirm that their organizations has a greater chance of penetrating new markets, 45% say that it will further help them increase their market share. You're both at the head of an organization that has Women in Governance Parity Certification. I'd like to know how this has impacted, positively I hope, your organizations and what you can share with the audience tonight. We'll start with you, Najah.
Sure, and I'll just say congratulations. This is an absolutely amazing event. Congratulations to everyone who's received the Parity Certification this year. I think personally, it is exciting for me to be here to represent Pfizer and all of the good work that's happening with our colleagues. I think certification has been incredibly important for us. I think internally, it essentially tells our colleagues, we care about you. We want to hear from you. You are our voice, and you are the voice that Pfizer provides to our customers. It is incredibly important for Pfizer to look like our customer base, right? Because you can't serve the community unless you hear and understand the community. The best way to do that is through representation.
That is so well said. How about you, Dino?
Before I answer the question, this is not my attempt at male humor, but I do realize we have Pfizer and Kruger as the speakers here.
Yes.
And two products that during the COVID pandemic you needed, vaccine and toilet paper, cashmere toilet paper, hopefully. So I wish we'd known each other before. We could have done some co-marketing as part of that. I think you bring up a very good point. The reality is this isn't just inclusion, diversity, culture where people can be their best is just not the right thing to do. It's a business imperative as well. And for some people, you have to approach it from the business imperative side because they might not be thinking about it that way. And the reality is you need to represent your consumers. You need to represent your communities that you serve. You need to represent your shareholders, the various stakeholders that you have. And quite frankly, in a business like ours, why would we not allow a large part of our population, whether it be diversity or women, be part of our organization and help our organization be better? Why would we exclude that? It makes absolutely no sense at all to do that. So for us, not just from a representation of who we are and how we engage with our communities, but also to get the best talent so that we can continue to grow our organization going forward.
And that's a very good point, especially with the talent shortage that we're seeing these days. Najah, you also have put an emphasis on another initiative, which is allyship. Why do you find that important? And can you tell us more about how that panned out?
Sure. So it's something that, I think comes natural. When you're talking about empowering women, you can't just put the onus on the women, colleagues in your organization to make this happen. Everybody has to be a part of the game. I was at an event not too long ago, and there was a question from a young woman in the audience who had experienced some challenging issues in a meeting with an older male colleague that didn't necessarily see her or recognize her for, the strong colleague that she was. And she was struggling with it. And I think the first thing that we say, right, is don't worry about it. Have faith in yourself. Have confidence in yourself. And you don't worry about what they say, right? But again, it's not about the women in the room. Everybody in the room should feel like they have a role in this colleague's success. So the answer should have been, let's educate. If there was somebody in that room that didn't make that colleague feel welcome or didn't recognize what they contributed to the meeting, let's make sure that we're educating everyone. So I tell that story because it is important that in our focus on women, we are not forgetting the other half of the room. I think there are so many men out there in our organizations that want to help, that believe in the power of empowering women colleagues, but maybe just need a few tools to do it. So one of the things that we focus on at Pfizer is ensuring that everyone has the tools and that everyone has a voice and that everyone has the accountability for making colleagues feel heard, not just in meetings, but just as a part of our organization.
That's so important. And Dino, well, you're a great ally. So how do we become an ally? And how do we get more of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts from your character and your belief in it. You cannot just fake it. You can't fake being an ally or get a check mark because your boss told you, you want them to play a bigger role in this area. I think, as Najah just said, we all own it. I think authenticity, values-based, a recognition that there are barriers and challenges. I would also say one thing, and this, it's also a personal story of mine, which is sometimes men in general are worried that they can't be perfect, so don't let perfect be a barrier to progression. I might say the wrong thing. I don't mean to, and I might, and I don't want to say, well, I don't want to be an ally because I'm afraid I might say something wrong. If I do, then I hope I've created a culture, a safe culture that people can call me out on it and help me become a better leader, right? So allyship is, as Najah said, it's not just about making others better, it's about making yourself better. And one story I'll tell you is when I was a young leader, I got to work for an incredible woman. Her name is Irene Rosenfeld, and she was voted the 15th most powerful woman in the world, right after Oprah. So that tells you something. But I got, my career coming up, I got to work with lots of great men, and there was a certain style of leadership. This was in the 90s, around toughness and firmness and almost a command and control. And with her, I just learned this incredible aspect of compassion, vulnerability, encouragement, willing to make mistakes and correct those mistakes. And for me, it just helped me become a better leader and see a whole side of my toolbox as a leader that I just never thought of. And obviously, she went on to be an incredibly successful woman and had a big, profound impact on me. So it's not just obviously the women's side of building capability and inclusion in organization, but I think it makes everybody better when you've got that.
And that leader demonstrated that you can have all these qualities and be successful and powerful and strong at the same time. Najah, do you sometimes face unconscious bias, or do you see it around you, and how do you call it out?
Yes. So I think the short answer
I think everyone in the room
yes.
can answer yes, right?
With that being said, and Dino, I love the fact that you said, people want to get better, and you can't let perfect be the enemy, or perfect be the enemy of good.
Of progress.
Progress.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think unconscious bias is just that. It's unconscious. The first step is for us to be able to identify it and to share stories. I think storytelling is an incredibly powerful tool to let people know this is what it looks like. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make me a good person if I call it out, right? It just is. And again, we all have a responsibility to acknowledge, to identify, and then work on what good looks like. And you can build that together. Not one person has the answer. I think organizations, and this is the power of a strong culture, organizations come together and they set their own norms. So at my company, it is the absolute norm that if someone is speaking, you give them your full attention because they deserve that. If there are issues or challenges that come up in a presentation or in someone's behavior, it's okay to call it out because, again, there are no bad guys, right? There's no bad people. It's just opportunities for learning and education.
And you're the first woman to be the president of Pfizer Canada. Yes, yes, I think she deserves it. How did the team react when you were nominated? How were you welcomed here in Canada?
So in true Canadian fashion, it's been amazing. Look, I have a 2-year-old, and you would not believe how many people have volunteered to babysit my kid. It's been absolutely incredible. I try not to dwell too much on being the first woman, right? My only job is to ensure that I'm the first of many. To make sure that the investments that people have made in me over the years, working with Pfizer in New York and other places in the world, that I am making those same investments in the women that work with me and the men that work with me. So I try not to worry too much about being the first, but I will say my time here has demonstrated that this is truly a progressive place to be. There are no bad ideas. And what we've been able to put in place just over the past year at Pfizer Canada has shown me that this organization, this country, is open to leadership no matter what it looks like. We used to talk at our company about head, heart, and guts leadership. That's a book. I'm pretty sure some of you have read it. And I think, again, it gets back, Dino, to what you mentioned. There's no one way that a leader looks or a leader is supposed to act. You can lead with your head, you can lead with your heart, you can lead with your gut, and all of that is okay.
Amazing. Well, I could spend the whole evening with you, and I have so many more questions on my list, but unfortunately, we were running a little bit late, so we're going to have to wrap it up. But Dino, I just wanted to know, in terms of tone at the top, we always say how important that is, right? So what do you do to make your environment more inclusive, you as a leader, and how are you able, and there's kind of two questions, I'm slipping into the same one, but to propel women's careers around you?
Well, I joined Kruger 5 years ago, and our industry was and is very much male dominated. So I came from the food industry, maybe a little further advanced, but still, a lot of work to be done. And when I got to Kruger, I realized we needed to make some changes. We needed to make some changes in how we talked, in our vision, our values, how they showed up, how those visions and how those values showed up. And myself and that great table over there of people that make me better every day, my leadership team really focused on a general diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, but certainly focusing on building a women's network, promoting high and enabling high potential women to exceed, being part of women in governance, and using you as a sounding board, as a benchmark, gap analysis, best practices that help guide our progression. Even something like our advertising, reflecting society, reflecting our consumers. And hopefully, as you saw some of our advertising over the last couple of years with the addition of our new CMO, Susan Irving, who formerly at Pepsi, we've really taken an approach to represent our communities. And the tone at the top starts with me. And it doesn't just start with me in terms of what I enable. It starts with me on what behaviors I call out that are bad. Because if I allow them to happen, even if it's a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I'm endorsing that behavior and propagating that behavior indirectly. So with respect to the investment we've put in several diversity groups, and quite frankly, the most recent focus has been on our manufacturing area because, as I said earlier, very male dominated, and the whole focus on STEM and trying to create a women's network so that we can get more role models that can promote the culture diversity is very important to our organization.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being such a great ally, and thank you so much for being such a great model. And a great round of applause for our co-chairs, and thank you for being part of this.